So who are you?
I'm Mike McHugh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of FlipBoard, and I'm an entrepreneur here in the Silicon Valley. I've been here for about 20 years or so. I started my first company on the East Coast and sold it to Netscape, and worked at Netscape for a few years. And then I started a company called Tellme, which I built and ran over the course of about 10 years, and ultimately we sold that company to Microsoft. And I worked at Microsoft for a few years, and then once we finished that integration, I started this company.
Very cool. This is the first time your company is being seen in public, right?
That's right. This is the very
you
first
forced
time.
me to keep it secret for a couple of months. It's really hard. It's been a hard secret to keep because it's such a cool product and something I really care about. But what is FlipBoard? What do you do?
Well, thank you for saying that. FlipBoard is really a social magazine. What it does is it lets you flip through all of the content that's being shared with you across your social networks in a magazine-like format. So for example, today when you use social media, you have to go to lots of different websites to check in and see what's going on in your social networks. And typically the way the user interface works is you're scrolling through a lot of these long lists. And these lists have lots of bit.ly links and links to photos and things like that. And I think that's perfectly good for quickly understanding what's been happening. But what it's not good for is discovering content, especially good content that you're really going to be interested about in any sort of efficient way. And so what we wanted to try to do with FlipBoard was use the rules of print media in terms of layout and also editorial, and bring those to the world of social media, to create more of a magazine-like format for browsing your social content.
So up to today, I'm a heavy Twitter user and a fairly good Facebook user. And I usually use Facebook's iPhone app or the iPad, just the web app, and it's a long stream, and everybody looks the same, right? Yeah. A message from my wife looks the same as a message from TechCrunch. It looks like the same as a message from Mashable, right?
That's right.
And on Twitter, I'm using Twitterrific or Seismic or TweetDeck, and it's just, again, streams of these tweets, and they all look the same. Visually, it gets boring after a while.
That's right.
Can you show me what it looks like on FlipBoard?
Sure, I would love to. So FlipBoard is more of a magazine, almost a digital magazine, and you can see here our first version is on an iPad, of course. The tablet form factor is absolutely perfect for what we're doing. Just like any other magazine, you have a cover. And this cover, for example, you can see there are different photos that people are sharing with me. You can see the contributors to this magazine right down here.
And I see some of my favorites like VentureBeat and TechCrunch and Jeremiah Yang and Economist. So
That's
it's a mixture of social, your real friends, as well as the news sources that you're subscribed to.
Exactly. Like this is a photo from a friend of mine. We went to Africa together. I met him in Africa, and he's a photographer. This is a photo from Jack Dorsey here.
Jack started Twitter, right?
Exactly. So there's a lot of different sources that you can attach FlipBoard to. In this case, with our first version, you can attach FlipBoard to Facebook and Twitter. But you can also follow Twitter lists, which I'll show you a little bit more about. So you can get lots of rich information from around the Twitter sphere and have that pulled into your magazine.
And this is just the cover.
This is just the cover, that's
right. So what's inside of the magazine?
Well, so basically you flip the cover open, just like a magazine, and here you can see our table of contents. And so for example, you have a section here for your Facebook, for Twitter, as well as other Twitter lists, some of which we've curated, like this one, for example, Flip Tech. But other times, lists that other people have curated, like, for example, your list of most influential in tech.
Yeah.
And I can go in and look at any one of these sections just by tapping on it. And you can see we flip over to here, the first page of my Facebook section. Now, this looks very different from when you go to facebook.com. What you see here are photos and links and articles basically prefetched and rendered out in a layout that resembles more of a magazine.
This all came from your Facebook.
This
So
is just from Facebook.
If I looked at your Facebook, if we signed into your Facebook page, it would, all this information would have been in that streaming format with little URLs and maybe a little thumbnail, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And here it's presented in where you really see the content. And what's great about it is I just sort of scan through, just kind of flipping through stuff until I see something that's interesting.
Now in Facebook, I don't see little text like this. So you're taking the little URL and going and fetching a little bit of text and putting it on the page?
That's exactly right. We're going and basically resolving the link to the actual article and extracting the image, the title, the article, the author, and other metadata, comments, etc., and packaging it all together and laying it out on a page.
How is your algorithm figuring out how to lay this stuff out and what to show me? Because here's a picture from a venture capitalist I know, Shervin, right?
Yep.
And here's stories that come from the Huffington Post, and this one came from CNN. So you have personal content next to news content. How do you how does your algorithm decide what to show on the pages?
Well, right now it's very much time ordered in our first phase.
Okay.
But what you'll see us start to do is, based on the interaction that you have with the content that's being shared with you, based on the interaction with your various friends and people in your social networks, we'll start to rank that content and present it more prominently, just like a magazine would, just like an editor would say, hey, this is a story that we think is a primary story that our readers are going to want to see. We can determine that a particular photo or a link is probably going to be something that you really want to see, and we can give that more prominent display in this social magazine.
Keep flipping through the magazine and let's look at some of the other features. Along the bottom you have a timeline, right? So
That's
you can
right.
see how many hours ago this page was built, basically.
That's
so
right.
if there's an earthquake right now and everybody starts twittering about an earthquake, I'll see all the earthquake stuff in the latest pages, and yesterday's news will be on over here.
Exactly. Okay. And this is relative to how much content is being shared with you. So for example, for you, this might go to 1 or 2 hours ago, whereas for somebody who's a more a beginning user of social networks, this might go to like 2 or 3 days ago. Okay. So the idea is we'll show maybe 100 or 200 items at a time, and you can see I can scroll through that content with this little scrubber down at the bottom, so I can go to the very latest stuff that's just been posted, or scroll through to stuff that in this case was 10 hours ago.
Okay. This experience will be different for everybody, right? Because it's based on who your friends are on Facebook and who you're following on Twitter.
Exactly.
What if I don't have any friends, or if I only have 3 friends, my wife and my kid? What will the experience be like, and how do you make sure that I have a great first experience?
Well, that's a great question. There are people who are social media experts, and then there are, right, like
I'm following 19,000 people on Twitter, so my experience is going to be completely different than the average person who only has 3 people there.
Exactly. You're more than an expert. You're more like a social media superhero. But my mom, who's heard of Twitter, doesn't really know quite what to make of Twitter, and she'll say, well, why would I want to share what I had for breakfast this morning with the world, right? She doesn't really quite get it. But what's really powerful about Twitter is that there are all sorts of interesting people sharing all sorts of interesting information that would be interesting to my mom. So the challenge was, well, how can we make this experience good for expert users, but also for people like my mom who are new to social media? And so what we wanted to do there was, in the table of contents, allow you to basically customize this so that you could add in topics of interest very easily, whether or not you were a Twitter user, even whether or not you had a Twitter or Facebook account. The way that works, for example, is I just go here and say Add Section, and you can see we have some picks for today, as well as recommended sections that we've curated. So, for example, Flip Style, which has things like fashion, and we also have Flip Sports and Flip Outdoors and Flip Music. So these are really great sections. So, for example, let's take a look at Flip Style. So now that I've added Flip Style, I can tap on that, and we'll flip over to that section, and you can see now there are articles that are coming from around the real-time web that are all about fashion. What this really is this is just a Twitter list that we've created. And so here, for example, there's a website called The Cut that has really great fashion posts, and I can take a look at this post.
And is this the original tweet right here?
That's right. That's the original
And so
tweet.
you can see it's 140 characters with just a link, but you got this picture and the layout all off of that.
Exactly.
Right? How does your algorithm do that? What does it do to build this beautiful page layout?
Well, we've built a back-end capability with servers that go out and connect to your Twitter and Facebook accounts, and as new posts come in, we go out and follow those bit.ly links and extract the content and basically store it and package it in a way that can be very quickly downloaded onto FlipBoard, but then also laid out in this really nice kind of magazine-like format.
Now I can imagine that a lot of the content owners are going to be nervous about this.
Yeah.
But how do you help them out and make sure that they still have a business model? Because you could see, right, New York Times, doesn't want something like this. They want you to see their advertising, and they want you to come over and actually interact with their brand, not just on a reader like this.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. What we're trying to do is really actually help the content publishers utilize social networks to get their content out to more people, which is ultimately what they want. And we want to do it in a way that's really compelling, that draws people in to take a look at that content. So we're doing a few things. One is when we look at each content publisher, we look and see what their RSS feed is for each publisher, let's say the New York Times. In the case of the New York Times, they have 1 or 2 lines of text that they put max. And so if I was looking at a New York Times article here, you would only see 1 or 2 lines of text. You wouldn't see this much text.
Okay.
And then what you do is when you're reading the article, you press this Read on Web button to actually see the web page. And here you can see we've also pre-cached the web page for you, so it instantly goes to that. And now I'm just looking at the web page for the article.
And this is New York Magazine.
In this case, it's New York Fashion Magazine. Yeah. Now, there are some publishers who embrace RSS and syndication in a way that's set up so that they actually display more content in their RSS feed. In particular, bloggers, really want their content out there, right? And so they actually put, multiple paragraphs or the entire article in their RSS feed. And so, so what we'll do is we'll display, a subset of the content that allows you to at least get a sense for what the article is, and then allow you to very quickly go over to the web page. Okay. And that brings, obviously, readers to their content. And then while you're looking at this web page, I can go up here and decide to retweet this or share this by email. And so it's really great for the content publishers because it's just, removing a lot of the friction of having their content distributed through these social networks.
And if you retweet this article and other people are using FlipBoard, it probably helps this article appear on more FlipBoards, right?
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And then because it's not just a bit.ly link that's showing up, they actually see a little bit of the article and they're drawn into it much more readily.
Are you using the retweeting or other gestures that readers are putting into the system to decide what to show? Because in my case, I have way too much to see in a 20-minute reading session, right? Yeah. I'm following 19,000 people. If I tried to read that, I'd be just flipping all day long.
Yeah.
And so you have to make some smart choices about what to show me. Do you use the number of retweets or the number of favorites or any signals that people have put in on the content to display only the best content?
Yes. Well, we are doing some very basic things to start with in the first version. We do look at the total number of retweets as a major signal. We also look at we try to discern who you interact with most frequently on Twitter, and then show you content from those people in a bit more prominent way.
So that's why my son's content will be more prominent than, let's say, Rocky's content?
Exactly. In fact, it's sort of similar to what Facebook does with their news feed, but applied now to Twitter streams. And so now we're in the very early days of doing that. We're doing that in just very light touches because we want to explore this. A lot of people like the content being ordered in a date-time order. And from a user experience point of view, it's a tricky thing to get that balance right. We want to make sure we have enough people using the product so that we can start to look at the kind of heuristics we're getting and see which signals are the most interesting to rank that content. And then also from a user experience point of view, call out when we've actually reordered your content and ranked it in a way that's obvious to you so that you understand what's happening and why that's happening, and be as transparent as possible about how we've done that ranking for you.
If there's a major news story, let's say there was a big earthquake in San Francisco, and let's say the cell phone network stayed up so we could all Twitter about it.
Yeah.
There would be hundreds of thousands of tweets. I mean, we've seen that with the World Cup right now, but there would be hundreds of thousands of tweets. Are you able to say this is a package story and build a page or something in FlipBoard that says this is all the great earthquake tweets? Or?
Not yet, but that is something that we're really excited about. The idea of being able to semantically package up tweets is very, very powerful, and I think we're right on the cusp of enabling that to happen. You'll see some stuff from us in the coming months that will move the ball forward on that front.
There's other companies as well that are trying to study what news to present to people, like SkyGrid's one of my favorite.
Yeah, SkyGrid's great.
And SkyGrid studies the speed that news travels,
yes.
right? And they have a lot of really rich algorithms that do that and do it very well. Are you going to partner with companies like that to maybe bring SkyGrid content into FlipBoard?
Yes, we're excited about partnering with companies like that. There's also, I saw your interview with the Cloud guys, you know, where you're looking at influence ranking across Twitter. So those kinds of things are really exciting to us. These are really important signals that help make the content more digestible. You know, there's just so much that's coming at people, especially when they really get into social media and they're following, you know, let's say 100 or so sources, or they have, you know, 500, 600 Facebook friends. It's really important to start to package those posts together in logical ways. So for example, here's what your friends are saying about the oil spill. Not just, you know, hey, you know, somebody said something about the oil spill, then somebody posted something about, you know, the soccer game, and then somebody posted something about the new iPhone. And now there's another thing here about the oil spill, right? So the idea is to try to pull those things together and give them more meaning in a way that's very similar, again, to what magazines do. This is the beauty of magazines. They have the benefit of looking across, let's say, the last week and contextualizing the news and tell a bit more of a story and provide, you know, beautiful photography and typography and package it together into something that has more meaning than just the raw facts of what's been happening.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the fundamentals of the company. Who funded you, and how are you going to make money with this?
Sure.
You know, this is a free app, right?
This is a free application. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So there's got to be some advertising or something that you're doing to make money. So.
Yeah, and again, we're in the early stages of exploring that. But as you can imagine, just like a magazine, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for us to do advertising in this kind of a format that is both richer and more beautiful and immersive.
We're already seeing that, right? I use the Wall Street Journal's app, and they have full page ads with videos in them, high def videos now, and some are even introducing almost like a game-like thing into advertising, so you engage with the advertising.
It's really exciting. You know, in Apple's iAd, you know, there's a lot of new kinds of ads that are getting created for that, and so it's exciting times for advertising. I think there's a whole new opportunity to create another kind of format that doesn't compete with the content so much and doesn't make the content reading experience as disjointed as it is today on the web. And you know, we think with FlipBoard there's a great way to balance the advertising and the content in a way that's, again, very similar to what you see in a magazine. Yeah. So that's certainly one option. And another thing that we're looking at is paid for content and subscriptions to content. You know, the content really needs to be good for people to want to be able to you know, to actually pay for it. But there certainly are plenty of examples of terrific content out there.
Do you think you're ever going to see a Wired Magazine channel inside this? Because I'm already paying $5 for the Wired Magazine's app.
Yeah. That's
separate from this. It would be interesting to see it integrated into FlipBoard.
That's a really interesting point. And and going even a bit further than that, right now, Wired Magazine's app is a really terrific collection of lots of great articles. But what if you could share those articles in that same beautiful format on an individual basis, right? Just like you do with a web page today. And so that's something that we're really interested in exploring, ways to allow you to have beautiful, rich, tablet-optimized content inside of FlipBoard that you might subscribe to for, maybe it's, $1 a month or something, and now you can see content from a particular publisher in this really beautiful format. So those two scenarios are interesting to us, and I think our main focus is to build an experience that people are using on a regular basis, where we can build up our readers, our readership, and get people really excited about this, and then gradually introduce these kinds of advertising and pay for content models as we learn more.
This is iPad only right now. Are you thinking of other platforms? That we just got the new iPhones, and they have this beautiful high-res screen.
Yeah.
That actually is almost as sharp,
it's
or
almost
even
the same resolution.
Same resolution. It's
That's
just
right.
really small.
Exactly. We're really excited about the iPhone as an opportunity here. I think smartphones in general, are crying out for something like this. Obviously, it will be somewhat different because the screen is smaller. But we think that a lot of these ideas apply just as well to smartphones as they do to tablet form factors. So that is certainly in the future.
And are you going to be an Apple-only company indefinitely, or are you going to look at Android as well?
We're open-minded. We love Apple. I have to say. I think Apple is really leading the charge when it comes to this particularly the new tablet form factor. So I think a lot of other companies have ambitions to do tablets, but they're pretty far away from getting to the point where I think it would make sense to build anything for those. So we'll see how things develop.
You're located a few blocks from the HP garage, right?
Yeah.
And HP is clearly working on one with
HP's
the
working
Palm.
on one, yeah.
They bought the Palm OS, so we know that they're going to come out with something. So it'll be interesting to see, as these newer tablets come out to compete with Apple, what you guys do.
It will be interesting, and hard to predict. Other than to say that I think Apple has such a tremendous lead here. I think that the iPad will be our premier platform for probably quite some time.
Very cool. Any last things you'd like to tell us about your company or about this app? Because it's quite a remarkable. I think a lot of people are going to come to this and go, "Ooh, does this change what Seismic or TweetDeck or any of the other readers, the Twitter app, do? And how does it affect my reading time there?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what we've seen is that what people like most about FlipBoard is that they get to discover stuff. That it's a really amazing way to discover things that people are sharing with you. So we're not trying to be a full-blown, Twitter client like a TweetDeck or a Seismic.
There's no direct messages here.
Right, you can't, for example, just post a status update here, and that was a very explicit decision. What we wanted to do is create more of a laid-back experience when you're on the couch, and you want to just explore the things that people are sharing with you, the kinds of times when you would read a magazine, and make that experience more personalized by showing you the content that your friends are sharing with you. And that turns out to be fascinating content. It turns out, you have friends for a reason. They have you share interests with them, and so if we can show you the content that your friends think are interesting, then you're going to have a really compelling user experience, right? And so that's really what we're trying to get at.
One last question. Location. Location changes what news I want.
Yes.
When I get to Lake Tahoe, I want Lake Tahoe news. I don't want, Half Moon Bay news anymore.
Exactly.
And Rocky and I got to China, and we wanted to know news about the location we were in, not necessarily San Francisco anymore.
Right.
Are you thinking about how location is going to affect the news that you display?
We really are, and that's another major heuristic that really shapes what people are interested in. So Absolutely. That's really, really important. Like when you go to Tahoe and you stop at a gas station, you might pick up the local newspaper and it'll show you the events that are going on in Tahoe, right? There's no reason why FlipBoard shouldn't be able to show you, location relevant information, not only in its own section, but also throughout all the sections that you have on FlipBoard, be able to prioritize that content based on location. So we're not doing any of that in the first version, but that's certainly on our roadmap. We're really excited about that.
Very cool. And where do I learn more about it?
You can go to flipboard.com. You can download the app for free on the App Store. It's available now, and it's completely free.
And are you guys on Twitter?
And we're on Twitter as well. Yes, FlipBoard.
So, Twitter.com/FlipBoard.
That's right.
So thanks for giving me a first row look at FlipBoard, because this is the app that I am excited about for 2010. It's the first thing that I've seen that's like, wow, okay, that went beyond what I was expecting.
Well, that really means a lot to me coming from you, so I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you coming in today. It was really terrific to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.